Hey, folks.
Hello.
Getting my act together here. Figure I'll give it till 1 or so to officially kick things off, but it's good to see you folks here.
Hey, David.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Let me turn up my sound a little bit here. Actually, I probably ought to put a headset on.
Can you guys hear me?
So far?
Yep.
Move the mic a little bit closer. There we go.
That should work a little better.
How's it sound to you now?
Sounds fine.
There you go.
Something about Zoom and sound on my Lenovo ThinkPad. It just can't get it loud enough when it's in Zoom. Doesn't have troubles otherwise.
Yeah, people were complaining about that yesterday in a completely different Zoom chat, that sometimes it wasn't recognizing the microphone or something. Fortunately, at least so far, my setup has been behaving itself. So I love the books above the transom in your over your doorway. That's really cool. I've always loved that look.
All the other walls are loaded that you can't see. So that's just the overflow. Actually, that's not the overflow. The overflow goes into other rooms.
Well, the clock says it's 1, and I can stay on here for a while if questions go on, but we might as well hook ourselves up. Hi, Diane. We might as well hook ourselves up and get started. First off, I'm David Gewertz. I'm the developer. Thank you all for coming on and saying hi. I don't have a specific agenda for this thing other than, to sort of come out from my little hidey hole and say hi to folks and answer questions if people wanted to, and also see people, because I've been under quarantine and haven't had a chance to see anybody for quite a while. So it's just nice to see people. Does anybody want to kick anything off with questions or comments or concerns or, any of that sort of stuff? Or what would you like me to cover today?
I wanted to know if I haven't updated my seamless donations app on my website yet, but is there anything we should be aware of, or that's glitchy, or that's confusing, or is it pretty straightforward?
Well, let's see. When you say you haven't updated, are you running some variant of 4.0 and going to 5, or are you? I had somebody yesterday for the first time in like 3 years reach out to me. He was using Seamless Donations 3, which is from like 2014. So, are you in the?
Let me find out.
If you have a little palm tree icon, that means you're at 4.0 or above on the little Seamless Donations thing.
Yeah, I have a palm tree.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about 5.0, because that's probably a good starting point. So 5.0, for those who are kind of curious, is a complete rewrite of the UI for the admin side of the system. When building a plugin, one of the things that's involved in building the plugin is how to get all the screens and menus and buttons and options and all that to show up on the screen. And you could hand code that, or you can use a user interface library. And I chose initially, when I adopted this thing back in 2014 or 2015, to use a user interface library, which was cumbersome as heck. It was difficult to use. It was really expensive. Updates were rare, and it was causing problems for folks. So I realized that I couldn't add any new features or do any fixes. I was going to basically, I was thinking about adding Stripe and adding some features people had requested back in, I guess, October or November, which is when my life finally stopped breaking apart until we had the pandemic. And I was going to add new features, and I realized I couldn't do that because that UI library was holding me back. Everything was problematic with it. So what 5.0 really is scrapping that original user interface library and replacing it with something called CMB2, which is an open source user interface library for WordPress. There's also some minor other things in there, some better ways to prevent searching and things like that. But this was a huge upgrade. I mean, it took me from end of November until about now to be able to essentially rewrite 3/4 of the user interface and put it into this. So the bottom line of that is that the data that's on your website, all your donations, all your settings, all of that stuff should remain the same. There shouldn't be anything changed in that, because I didn't touch any of the code related to donation management and data management or anything else. I only touched the user interface side of things. There may be an issue with updating and add-ons. In other words, the WordPress, the core version of Seamless Donations, and then if you have like Giving Level Manager and Thank You Enhanced and so forth, because I had to rewrite all 4 of those add-ons as well, pretty much from ground zero. So what'll happen is, depending on which one syncs, in other words, if you load the core and then you load the add-on, or you load the add-on and then you load the core, there may be a little bit of a sync issue. I've coded that as best as possible, but the best thing to do is to deactivate the add-ons, update the core, activate the core, and then make sure you download the updates to the add-ons. That would be the most reliable way to do that. Otherwise, hopefully it'll work. 501 seems to be working relatively well. There's one known bug I have, which is when you go into the media section, for some reason it's not updating the media section. So that's actually what I've been working on today to try to fix. So there'll probably be the release will probably be 502. But other than that, hopefully, hopefully I don't ruin 10,000 nonprofits with breaking their code. But hopefully, it should work, which is why I've been running these betas to get people's feedback. The first version, 5.0, had a PayPal bug, and that's been fixed. 501 has this media bug, which I'm working on, and I haven't had anybody screaming beyond that. So usually when I break something bad, people yell at me, and I haven't had anybody yelling at me. So far, hopefully that's where it'll be. Depending on how long it takes for the media, I was hoping to release this thing over the weekend so that, it had a relatively quiet release, but my guess is it's going to take me a few days to figure out the media bug. So I'm looking at probably next week for the official release through the WordPress, WordPress.org repository. Now, my next step with this, just so you understand, is I'm trying to add Stripe. So I was originally going to say, okay, well, when I release it to the repository, when I release it up to WordPress.org, it will include Stripe. It's turning out that's taking me longer to do. And I really want to get this update out there and in circulation earlier so I can fix bugs and things. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably release the version without Stripe, and then shortly after, or mediumly after, depending on what my day job has happened, release the version with Stripe subsequent to that. And the Stripe update will be free. There won't be any add-on cost to Stripe, mostly because PayPal is such a pain in the neck that I really want an alternative that I can support people with. And Stripe will hopefully take us there. So that's that.
great. That sounds awesome. I just had one other little question.
Sure.
My client wanted to know if there was a way that the person that's using the form, we have like the giving levels. That's not an add-on, is it? The giving levels?
Yeah, there's a giving levels add-on. It comes default with like a preset set of giving levels. I think $5, $10, $20, that kind of thing. But there's an add-on called Giving Levels Manager,
Yeah,
which lets you customize all of that. And if you're using that, you want to make sure you update that as well.
okay. And when you do the release, will there be a thing saying update giving level manager, and I'll just click on it type of thing?
In theory, yes. And the reason I say in theory is because the core is updated via WordPress.org, where the add-ons are updated with EDD, which is Easy Digital Downloads, which is the shopping cart. So they're two separate systems that control those two things. And I'm hoping both of those are supposed to just show up on your plugins and say there's an update ready for you. But I don't know exactly whether the timing will be by minute, whether it'll take 20 minutes to change, that kind of thing. Worst comes to absolute worst is you delete the old version and you re-upload the new version of Giving Level Manager. So that's the worst case scenario.
I just had one other little question, and that was, is there an option for people, the person giving on the user's end, for them to also put a little note?
Not at this point.
Okay.
One of the biggest requested things, and this again goes back to the ability to do any kind of updates, has been to customize some of those fields. And it is possible to customize the fields on the form, but there's no way for that data to be transferred from the form into the database. And that's a future thing I would really like to add, but right now it's not there.
Perfect. Thanks.
I have a question.
Yeah, Lori.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I just want to thank you for this plugin in general. It's really awesome, and I've really appreciated it for the past couple of years, so thank you.
Thanks. It's always nice to hear.
Yeah. So, like one of the things that was a hurdle, I guess, in the last one with 4.0, that my users or my donors would like choose a specific area where they wanted to donate, like to a specific program. It was within the options on their end. But then when the message got sent to us as the organization, it seemed like we couldn't see what project they had wanted to donate to.
From the email or from that was not me. From the email or in the database?
From the email also, from the email it wasn't there. And then on my dashboard, my WordPress dashboard, under the donors where it has or even donations where it has the palm tree.
Yep.
Some of those, it just wasn't accurate. It's like some of those would disappear or they weren't there. So we really had trouble knowing what funds that they were specifying to.
Okay, so there's a couple things that go to that. Anytime a donation from a fund happens, there's a record that's placed in the donor and in the fund and in the donation. So if you look at, for example, let's just say that Jim made a donation and he donated it to the 140 characters fund. In theory, when you look at his donation, you should be able to see both that he made a donation and that it went into the 140 characters fund. But for that record to show up, it has to travel first to PayPal, and then PayPal has to send the IPN back to the database for that record to show up. Some users have always had a problem with PayPal returning that value and telling the database that, yes, that transaction was accepted, and then it therefore update the database. This has gotten better over time, but it's still a problem. One of the reasons I want to move to Stripe is because PayPal has been just a nightmare to work with. But everybody should return all the way back to the donation page when they're done. If they exit PayPal without allowing it to come all the way back, that donation will not show up in your database. And another one of the 1,000 or so features I'd like to add is a way to, recover that if you find that somebody's made a PayPal donation, to go grab the original data and plug it into your database. Again, that's a function of how much time I have after work. But that's what's going on. That's what's probably going on. PayPal has been a problem. PayPal has given me I've run, as far as I can tell, I've run roughly $4 million worth of donations through PayPal over about a year each year, none of which I get, but Seamless Donations runs about $4 million through PayPal each year. They have not responded to a single support request of mine since 2015. By contrast, Stripe has responded to almost daily support requests since I started working on Stripe about a month ago. So I really want to wean people off of PayPal if I can, simply not because I don't like PayPal, but because they're completely non-responsive. Even though we're pumping, they're taking their cut out of that $4 million a year, and it would be nice if they'd answer an email. But the net of it is it's probably not returning back. Now there is a tech note that's on the lab notes section that says basically if you're not getting your responses back from PayPal, here's what to check. So you might want to check that. Let me see if I can find what it's called. Bear with me as I turn away from you guys for a sec.
Yeah, and maybe what I am thinking about is more in the email, that the email didn't speak.
Okay. The email doesn't. I haven't actually modified the email code since I inherited it from Alan. And that, again, goes back to this UI thing, because it's so difficult to add things like fields. Like, gee, we have a thank you enhance that sends a message back that says, thank you for this, but it doesn't modify the email that goes to the operators, to the nonprofit operators. And that's something that would be very nice to add.
Yeah, so is that a possibility that you might add that to the 5.0?
It won't be in 5.0. It is possible it'll be sometime after that. 5.0 is just get this thing out and make sure that it doesn't blow up on everybody. And then the next version will be hopefully Stripe, so that we have an alternative payment system. And then after that, there'll be add-ons I hope to do. Now, just in case you guys don't know it, this is not like a big company. It's just me and my wife and my dog. So I do this nights and weekends. So exactly how long it takes depends entirely on, what kind of things are going on. I had a hurricane and had to move twice because our roof got blown off, which really cramped our getting stuff done style for a while. So exactly how long these updates take, I don't know. I'm hoping they go faster, because I'm hoping that the ability to add features isn't an impossibility with this update. I just added a quick set of features yesterday for better use of validating stuff, and it took me, I don't know, about 3 hours, and I wasn't able to edit at all with the earlier version of this of the UI library. So I'm hopeful. And I'd really like to crank out an add-on or some new features every month or two. Not only because I really enjoy working on it, but because I want to make this a better product. And right now, so many organizations are relying on this in a really tough time that it's a relatively high priority, and it's kind of my way of giving back without having to go outside. So
good. Well, thank you for working on it.
Yeah. And definitely stay in touch if you've got questions or you need additional stuff. I'm asking people to use the ticketing system simply because I get so many work emails. But if this is working out kind of nice, so I might do this a little more often. I had no idea whether anybody would show up or whether there'd be 100 people with pitchforks. I'll do more of these if this works out. So anyhow, anybody else have things they wish to discuss?
I was just curious, are you going to keep doing PayPal after you add Stripe?
Yes, I'm not going to take it out, but I may not be able to do as much fixing as I'd like. Like, there's 3 or 4 different versions of PayPal that you can use, and I've been trying to get a solid answer from PayPal about, like, for example, which to use for certain circumstances and which is deprecated and which isn't. I get no support response at all. So I'm going to keep trying to fix it based on whatever I can find publicly. I did a huge update a few years ago where I did all their stuff and followed all their recommendations, and then they posted something and said, "Oh, that was wrong. Redo it this way." You know, and there went 4 months of work. So I'm going to try to continue to support PayPal, but unfortunately, I'm not supported. So it may continue to be somewhat problematic, but it'll be the best I can do based on publicly available information, unless, of course, they sometime decide to actually support their gateways.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I'm not taking that feature out. I'm just trying to find a way to say, if you can't make it work with this, try that. I don't know enough about using Stripe and the fees involved in Stripe and what it affects the nonprofits and things that I feel comfortable just yanking the rug out of PayPal. But I actually now have a button that allows you to switch between the 2 gateways. I don't actually have the 2 gateways working yet, but there's now a thing that says, do you want to use Stripe or do you want to use PayPal? And it changes. It's kind of cool.
Now, is that for the setup or is that for the client?
It'll be for the setup.
Okay, so we'd have to make a choice, not the person making the donation.
Yeah, because I figured that it's going to be much harder to test for each individual transaction. So, I mean, that may come later. It may be something that if I've got some degree of reliability, and you know, you guys ask for it, I may try to give the user the option. But right now, it's mostly what is your, you know, you pick one and see how it works.
All right.
And it'll be a miracle if even that works properly, but it'll be nice. We'll see where we go with it.
I had been putting off a PHP version update on our website because I didn't want to mess up seamless donations, especially now when things are so dicey donation-wise. But now, should I go ahead and have the site updated to, what is it, PHP? I can't even see what it's supposed to be here. 7 something, I think, and then work with the beta, or should I plug the beta in what I have now?
What are you running now? What PHP are you running now?
Let's see. They used to tell me here. I'm on my login page, and I don't know. I had this up so I could answer that question, and now they're not telling me right off the bat. I had written you about that, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, and you said, well, nobody's complaining, so it probably hasn't broken anything, but I like to play it conservative, and I don't have a lot of time because up until the pandemic, I traveled quite a bit in Latin America, so I'm not always in a place where I can take care of the
What
website.
I would recommend you do is try the beta on the current configuration you have now.
Okay.
And see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
If it works, then keep that going, and then once the beta releases officially, you can move to PHP 7.4 and use that, because I'm building on the latest version. I think it's 7.4. It's either 7.3 or 7.4. I wrote that down on the release notes. But you can move it to that, and you should be fine, because that's actually what I'm building and testing on. But I would say for the moment, don't yank out anything built into your system if you can test the plugin. The plugin's really easy. If you upload the plugin and it fails, just delete that folder and put the other plugin back and let me know. So that's better than having to try to figure out how to regress your server all the way back to like whatever PHP you're running and then try it again. It's much easier just to swap the plugins and see how they behave.
All right.
And I would hold off moving PHP. And also the other question is, what else are you running on your system? And are those also compatible with PHP 7?
The company I host with, they have a test that runs through, and it tells you anything that's not compatible. And up to this point, Seamless Donations has been the only one.
Okay.
But it's been maybe the most critical, so that's why I didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah. So once it releases through WordPress.org, And especially if you've already tested it works, go ahead and update to the latest version of PHP, because that's what I'm supporting from now on.
All right. Should I go back in my email and use the links given in order to update the license on our 2 plugins? Because I did let them lapse in this period.
Are they still valid, or do you?
No, they expired a couple of months ago. So I'd like to do those and test those. So
yeah, you probably should do that.
All right.
If you run into problems, just send me a ticket and I'll get you an updated set of keys.
Okay. Well, I'm with Lori. We really appreciate the fact that you have this product out there, and
Cool.
You know, I'm not certain that you're making enough money from the plugins to you know, to pad your retirement account, but
yeah,
that's
right
much
now
appreciated, because so many of these others, they want such a huge chunk, and then PayPal wants their chunk, and
yeah.
um,
Yeah, right now it's a loss. I had to pay $600 to be able to mail out the notices to tell people there was a beta, and I had to explain that to my wife. But I have a full-time job, so you know, unlike the folks who are doing this full-time and have a full-time team, I'm not supporting anybody through this. I'm just doing this pretty much to keep people up and running and keep coding chops, and it started off because I had a nonprofit I was working with that I needed to support. But you know, it's not like, I mean, I'd like to break even because then I don't have to explain it to my wife.
right.
But yeah, I'm not doing this to support myself. I'm doing this mostly as sort of my contribution, and because I like coding and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So you know, thankfully I don't have to have it make money. But I also don't have too many buy $600 things and then explain to my wife choices up front. So, you know,
Right.
MailChimp is funny because MailChimp, if you have under 2,000 subscribers, it's free. If you have over 2,000 subscribers, it's $600 a year. And I popped over that number, so I couldn't send out the betas. And I was like, I don't want to just send this thing out there and just hope it works. I want to tell people. So that's where that is. But yeah, thankfully I have a job, and the job pays for most of this.
All right. Well, thank you.
So since you guys are here, can you guys tell me about your nonprofits and what you're using this for? I'm just always curious how it's being used.
Should we do it ladies first?
Sure.
I'm actually, I maintain a website for the Insight Garden program, and they help people in prisons, and they work with the prisoners to plant gardens.
Oh, wow.
And it's in California, and they've instituted this program in prisons all over the United States.
Wow, that's awesome. Here in Oregon, they have something called a Master Gardener program, which my wife was attending up until the pandemic hit, which local communities build what they call inspiration gardens. And in each community, they have people come together and sustain the garden. It's quite something.
Yeah, it's pretty therapeutic.
So Tina, we haven't heard from you. Are you out there? What do you do with what do you do with this product?
Hi, this is Tina. I'm from Mexico City.
Hi, Tina.
I work for an organization, a nonprofit called AVP Alternatives to Violence Project. I think it's very well-known program in the US.
Yeah.
And this is the only plugin I've used since, I think it was in the beginning of 2014, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been working fine. I mean, no complaints.
Awesome. Awesome. I always like it when people don't complain. Very cool. Lori, what about you?
I manage a handful of websites that are mostly nonprofits that do aid work in Africa. Cool. And these are just small little nonprofits that I used to be a missionary in Kenya. And so some of them are in Kenya, but some are in other countries, and I just help them with their websites.
That's awesome. And Jim, you said you traveled a lot. I'm assuming that has something to do with what you're doing?
Yes, our organization spends my time going to Latin America, mainly Central America, but Peru has figured in prominently the last few years. And I teach pastors and leaders, basically, I bring a Bible college to them.
Well,
because most of these people are bivocational. In other words, they pastor, but they also work in the sugarcane fields or the coffee plantation or some job in town. And they will never either economically or time-wise, or perhaps even educationally, be at the place where they'll be able to attend a Bible college or seminary or something of that nature. So I'm blessed to have the time, and blessed because of Seamless Donations to have some of the funds to be able to do that.
that's great.
So that's where the money goes, is to help support that work.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So do we have more questions, or should we start looking at wrapping this thing up?
I do have another question.
Go ahead.
With the add-ons, are they free or is there a charge for those add-ons?
They're $20 at this point each.
Okay.
And they're what's sort of offsets my wife telling me what I'm allowed to spend on for development tools. But yeah, they're $20 each. And
Okay.
for folks who've bought them, and if you have trouble updating or you need to get a license key for the new version, just reach out to me. I'm not going to charge anybody for that, but that's what they're there for. And there may be, I may issue some add-ons that are free, just as a way to not include it in the main package. But I haven't done that yet, and I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet. But the ability to add plugins is pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, so those add-ons, because it's been a long time since I paid you money.
Yep.
I know that. So is it, I mean, I'm pretty sure I have the Giving Level Manager.
Yep.
Is it per site $20, or you have a lifetime license for $20?
It's per site $20,
Okay.
and it's usually $20 a year. And I think it upgrades at $17 or something. There's a discount coupon that the system ships out for subsequent upgrades. There's a discount for like 3 to 5, and a discount for I think 5 to whatever. You know, and each add-on right now, each add-on is the same price. Some add-ons may change in price if I have to like incur a cost to build them or produce them or something like that. But, you know, I mean, I don't think any of them are going to be the price of some of what I've seen a lot of the other folks doing. I mean, there's add-ons out there at $300 and $400, and I can't imagine needing to charge $300 for, you know, something that lets you send an email, you know. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just have one final question, just a clarification. When I'm not going to update with the beta, I'm going to wait until you do the release to update from 4.0, 0.23, which is not what I'm at now. But I mean, it's very important to my client that we have that Giving Level Manager. So my question is, do I update the program first and then update the add-on, or do I update the add-on first and then?
It would probably be more reliable for you to disable the add-on, update the program, then re-enable the add-on, and or then update the add-on and then re-enable the add-on is probably the most reliable.
And is that like just like a click of a button, like enable, disable type of thing?
In the plugins manager, there's the ability to enable and disable plugins. Okay. And you can do that with the add-on. The challenge here is that when I wrote the add-ons, I didn't take into account the idea that I was going to have to gut them and rewrite them. And so the add-ons that you guys have on your systems don't know there's a new update coming. And they don't know to check to see if there's a new update coming. So I did my best in the new core to check for that and to disable them or to prevent them from causing a problem. But I have and I haven't had any complaints during the beta, so I hope that they're working, but I'm not 100% sure that it's going to be absolutely perfect. I mean, what I would really recommend you do if you want to be absolutely sure that there's no problem is disable the add-on, delete the add-on from the plugin manager, update your core, then download the new version of the add-on and install that is probably the single most reliable way of making sure you're doing it. The other thing
you run through that one more time?
Okay, yeah. What I would recommend to be the most reliable is disable the add-on, delete the add-on. So that'll be the 4.0 add-on.
Okay.
Update Seamless Donations to 5.0. Download the add-on, the 5.0 add-on, upload it and enable it. So basically you're pulling the add-on out, you're updating Seamless Donations, you're putting the new add-on in.
Pick up the house, change the foundation, and then
put it back on. Yeah, that's going to be your absolutely most reliable way to do that. That's not the automatic push for update thing that will show up in your plugins, but that is the most reliable. And if you have a problem with downloading the add-ons or getting them, let me know. Diane,
where would we download them from?
The way you download them is either from the online store where you bought them, which is off of Zatz Labs, or in your plugins directory, in the plugins tab on WordPress, you'll see all the add-ons, and you'll see there'll be a little flag that says ready to update. But like I said, it is by far the most reliable to change those out. Now the downside of that is you might want to, like, if you're not sure about it, download the add-on ahead of time. If you run into a problem with downloading the add-on, send me an email and I will send you a zip file with the add-on, so that you have it. So that's also a doable way to go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, what I would do with you, Diane, if you're concerned about that, is like some Saturday night or something when nobody is using your system, I'd recommend you like zip up your existing folders, try uploading the betas and make sure they work and be comfortable with it. And then de-zip them again and put it back, because it would be a good idea to test.
Okay. I'm not sure how to do that.
Okay. It's not critically necessary, but it's always nice to know.
Okay.
And to pick up the current beta, we just go back to the email you sent, click the button, download it, and then...
Yeah. You can also go to the Zatz Lab site, and under support, there's a beta tab right under the support tab of the zatzlabs.com site.
Oh, yes, I see it. Okay.
And you can grab it from there as well.
Okay.
So, and I can't do one of these every week in perpetuity, but I will try to do another one of these Zoom chats right after or right before I do the release, so that if people are running into a snag, I can try to answer questions. And then probably, do you guys like this? Is this something that you'd like to see like once a month or so?
I think it's helpful.
Cool.
Definitely.
So,
it's nice to meet you. I mean,
yeah, that's true too. Yeah. It's just really nice to have, faces and people and stuff like that. So that's very cool. Yeah, so I'll try to do this on a monthly basis at least, and definitely, as this thing releases, I'll make sure that I'm available to answer questions that way as well. I mean, assuming we don't have some horrible news from the pandemic and work makes me cover that instead. So we shall see. So any other things people want to talk about, or should I let you all go off to lunch, dinner, or wherever you are?
Well, I would like to ask one.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were telling Diane how to update hers once the new one comes out.
Yeah.
Officially. So for me, I would like to test out this beta version. I did see your links that were linked in your email and these downloads. So I've downloaded the Seamless plugin and then also the Giving Level Manager add-on.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to install that onto one of these, is that the same process, or must be a little different?
Yeah. I mean, again, and what I like to do is I tend to do when I'm doing something like this, and I'm not sure what's going on out there, I like to do it at like an off hour when I don't have a ton of traffic. And probably the very best thing to do is just disable and delete the add-on. You have one add-on you're running?
I thought I did. I mean, I know we have multiple giving, but I just don't see where it's written at.
Okay. Well, it would be in your plugins folder. You'd see Seamless Donation, then you'd see Seamless Donations Giving Level Manager right under it in your plugins folder.
Okay.
Let's assume for the moment you have that. If not, don't worry about it. But what I would recommend you do is, I mean, at this point for testing, I would recommend you just disable those two plugins. If you have access to the directory, I would zip up those two plugins so that you have them to recover really quickly and easily. Delete those two folders and then upload the two new zips and make sure they work. And then if you run into a problem, delete those and unzip the old ones. That's how I do my testing. Is basically I keep a zip file of the older version. So like, for example, I would create a zip file of Seamless Donations and call it Seamless Donations -4-0-23, for example. So I know what it is. And the plugins folder won't execute anything in a zip file. So I just leave it right there in case I have to go back to it quickly. And then get rid of the folder. Fortunately, none of these things affects your database. So you can swap folders back and forth without ever having it touch your database at all. So then I would put up the new folder, try that, see how it works, you know, and then if necessary, go back to the old zip and see how that works. That would be what I would recommend.
Okay, so does that mean if it doesn't touch our database, does it mean it still keeps a record of our donors and how much they donated?
Anything that's in your database before the beta will stay in your database after the beta.
Okay.
So, I mean, it doesn't magically make new stuff appear, but like it won't touch, it shouldn't touch any of your settings. It shouldn't touch any of your donations, that kind of stuff. Now, I always recommend you make a backup because shouldn't touch isn't guaranteed it won't touch. You know, I've done my best in coding this to make sure that doesn't happen, but I don't know all your systems, and there is always a chance. So backing up is always a good step. But, you know, I've been jumping back and forth between 4 and 5 on my development system, sometimes hourly, and not seeing any change. But, you know, I'm also not using a production system.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll document that in one of the emails on you know, how to look at moving those files back and forth, because that would be easy to do.
That'd be really helpful. Thanks.
Cool. Okay. Well, this has been great. I've really enjoyed this, and unless we've got anybody else, I'll let you all go, and I'll go back to work, and I'll hopefully talk to you in a couple weeks, but stay tuned. All your suggestions have been great. It's been really nice meeting people in person. And stay safe out there.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank
folks.
you, David.
Thanks,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, David.
Bye.